My husband confessed that he wanted my married best friend, so I told him to go ahead and try. Only for her husband to teach him a life lesson he'll never forget. Oh boy, is he regretting it now. So a little context before I get into what happened. The three of us went to high school together, but my best friend's husband met her at work. My husband Jacob, 28M, and I, 28F, got married 3 years ago after 2 years of being together. My best friend Nicole, 28F, and I have been friends ever since we were in kindergarten. We've been friends for a really long time and are still going strong. She married Travis, 30M, a year ago after being in a relationship for about 3 years. Jacob wasn't friends with me and Nicole back in high school, but we were acquaintances. Jacob and I only met at the high school reunion we had a couple of years after graduation, and we became friends there. Nicole had to skip that one because she was sick. He asked me out on a couple of dates, and we realized we had a lot more in common than we thought. That's how we got into a relationship, and we were relatively happy. Our married life was great too, and we'd even gone out on several double dates with Nicole and Travis. Things were going so well until about a week ago when my husband and I were having a night in, and we'd polished off an entire bottle of wine because we'd had a really busy week and wanted to celebrate. Just for fun, we decided to play that game where we named 5 celebrities who we could hook up with without our partner getting mad at us. I named 5 celebrities, but he was only able to name 4. I was teasing him about it and told him that he needed to name 5, or else I'd win this one. Of course, there was no winning or losing in this game. I was just messing with him. But he thought about it for a while and then blurted out that he'd definitely love to get with Nicole sometime or the other if he knew that I wouldn't get mad. I was shocked and didn't know what to say at the time and tried to laugh it off since he was chuckling as well. But in spite of being drunk as hell, I couldn't find the humor in what he'd said and couldn't just laugh it off. So I asked him if he was being serious and informed him that he could only name celebrities because it's unlikely that we'll ever even get to meet them, and if he names real people, that just makes it weird. He told me that he was serious and even confessed that he'd had a crush on Nicole even when we were in high school. He didn't even think that he should have stopped there and went on to say that he used to think of me as her less attractive sidekick back then. All I could do was stare at him open-mouthed because whatever he was telling me was just so disrespectful and mean. I guess he'd just forgotten that I was his wife now and continued to talk about how he'd love to have a day out with a woman like Nicole and just how lucky Travis is. I'd had enough that night, so I just left the room without a word and went to the bedroom and went to sleep. I was really upset, but I was also very drunk, so I fell asleep quickly, hoping that I'd forget all of this in the morning. But I didn't forget, and the next morning I decided to confront Jacob about what he'd said the previous night at breakfast. He seemed pretty unaffected by last night, even though I was nursing a terrible hangover. When I asked him if he'd actually meant what he said about Nicole last night, he told me that it was all true and didn't even seem sorry about it. He wasn't even embarrassed to admit it and just continued to have his cereal, and I was getting pissed off because this guy was supposed to be my husband, yet he had no shame in admitting that he'd always been more attracted to my best friend. I decided to ask him if he still found Nicole attractive, and without missing a beat, he told me that he did. That was the last straw for me, and I lashed out at him over it. But instead of apologizing, he doubled down on what he was saying and told me that I needed to just accept it and move on. He did love me more than her and believed that I was his soulmate, but he still did think that Nicole was objectively more attractive than me, and if it came down to physical attraction, then he'd pick her over me any day. And he expected me not to be offended at that because what's more normal than your husband telling you that if it came down to it, he'd rather sleep with your best friend than you? We got into a really ugly fight, and he left for work after telling me that I was being petty and selfish. He said that he wasn't going to sugarcoat the truth for me, and if he didn't find me as attractive as Nicole, then he wasn't going to say it just to boost my ego and make me feel better about myself. He even tried to gaslight me by saying that if I hadn't wanted an honest answer the other night, then I shouldn't have brought up that stupid game at all and I should have just let it be when he wasn't able to name 5 people instead of teasing him about it as if I was the problem here. I didn't go to work that day and just kept breaking into tears throughout the day. I wanted to talk to someone about this, but ironically, I couldn't talk to the only 2 people I usually share everything with, my husband and my best friend. So I chose not to say anything and tried to pretend that I was fine when Jacob came back home. We didn't speak after the fight and then for the next 2 days because he was convinced that he hadn't done anything wrong and was just being honest here. On the 3rd day, I finally broke down and ended up telling Nicole everything. She'd noticed that my behavior was all off, and I sounded perturbed, so for 2 days, she kept asking me if I was all right and was very concerned about me in general. I just couldn't hold it together anymore and told her the truth. She was furious on my behalf and was about to call Jacob up and give him a piece of her mind, but I stopped her. I just didn't know what to do at all, and I definitely didn't want her to confront him just yet because I wasn't ready. But Nicole pushed me to realize that what Jacob had said to me was really messed up and that I needed to teach him a lesson and then leave this marriage because it was very clear that he didn't respect me at all. She was right, of course, but I didn't know what to do to teach him a lesson. It was only when Nicole mentioned how she wished Jacob would have said something like this while Travis was around, and that would have been a sight to see because he'd beat up a guy before who tried to catcall Nicole, that I realized I could just do exactly that. I asked her if she'd be okay with me arranging a double date with them in the next couple of days and having Jacob bring this up in front of Travis. She agreed readily, and we had a good laugh thinking about what would happen to Jacob if he said crap like this on the date. By then, the hurt had dissipated and had been replaced by anger, so I decided to go ahead with this plan of mine and even apologized to Jacob for overreacting, even though I didn't mean a word of it. I just wanted him to say yes to the double date. I made it up to him with his favorite dinner, and he actually had the audacity to tell me that he was glad I'd finally come to my senses, and he agreed to the date. The plan that Nicole and I had come up with was reckless enough, and I also added fuel to the fire by lying to my husband a day before the date by telling him that I'd learned from Nicole that even she'd had a crush on him for the longest time and would love to go out with him someday. So he should probably bring that up on the date. He seemed taken aback and asked if Travis was okay with it, and I lied and said that he didn't care because it was just a date and he didn't mind. He seemed very pleased with that and was smiling from ear to ear when I told him that, which lessened my guilt by a lot, to be honest. Yesterday, we finally left for the date in the evening, and Nicole and I had picked one of the finest restaurants in the city. We were all dressed up, and it was supposed to be a great day for all of us. Nicole and I were excited because, finally, Jacob was going to get whacked, and we believed that he desperately needed that. So after some small talk and a couple of glasses of wine, I finally brought up the game that we'd been playing the other day as a way to steer the conversation where we wanted it to go. Once again, I named 5 celebrities and asked Jacob to go next. He was confident enough to name Nicole this time without any prompting because of what I'd led him to believe the day before about Nicole feeling the same way about him and Travis not giving a damn. Unfortunately, neither of those things were true, and as soon as he named Nicole, she pretended to be shocked, and so did I. We threw him under the bus there, and when I took a look at Travis, he was already fuming. He's a pretty buff guy, so it was definitely intimidating, but Jacob was unfazed and continued to smile at Nicole. Travis addressed it first and told him that he needed to apologize to everyone at the table and that then we would end this double date. So Jacob had a chance to read the room and do the right thing, but as usual, he did the exact opposite of it and still chose to believe my lies despite the proof of it being untrue right in front of his face in the form of an angry Travis and a shocked Nicole. Yet he chose to answer back, saying that he wasn't going to apologize because he knew that the feelings were mutual. He even decided to take it a notch higher and said that now that everything was out in the open, he and Nicole didn't need to push down their feelings for each other anymore and pretend like there was no tension there because now Travis and I couldn't do anything. Now comment update to tag you on part 2.